Have you ever wondered why your lights come on with the flick of a switch? Or why your fan come on with the press of one button? It seems almost instantaneously. But the truth is that there's a lot happening and a lot of people making it happen behind the scenes. Good afternoon, my name is Emmanuel Petch, and on this episode of the What's and Whys of Energy, we're talking about how electricity reaches your home and why it matters to you as a customer. To help us understand and make sense of all of this, we are joined today by Ivan Acosta. He is an engineer at the Distribution and Planning Engineering Department with responsibility for BEL's distribution operations and standards. Ivan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Emmanuel. I'm always excited to be here to interact with the customers.
Right, and very true. And the fact is, your position as distribution operations and standards, that's quite an important role.
Yes.
Because at BEL, standards, especially for safety, standards is everything.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
All right, so let's jump right into the conversation. We're talking about how electricity reaches your home. Let's start at the beginning. Where does electricity come from?
Okay. Firstly, we need to establish BEL's primary role as a utility company. Our purpose is to transmit, distribute, operate, and maintain the national grid, right? We don't usually generate electricity. However, we do own generating facilities like the one in Kikaker, the one in San Pedro, the one in 8 Miles at the 8 Miles facility. So we have those generating facilities to assist with two things: stabilizing the grid and as backup for when the electricity demand increases.
Okay. So where does the bulk of energy come from then?
So this is where it gets interesting. We have other facilities called the independent power producers, or IPPs as we may call them. These are separate entities from BEL, and their sole purpose is to generate electricity to supply BEL. So we purchase electricity from them. They generate using the dams, biomass, biodiesels, and more interestingly, solar, right? So we purchase electricity from them through our power purchase agreement.
Right.
So that's the generating part of electricity.
Okay. So we have these generating facilities all across the country, generating power, like you said, via a power purchase agreement.
That's right.
What happens next after power is generated?
All right. So from the generation, it goes to the transmission line, right? So it steps up to the transmission line.
What does step up mean?
Okay, so the voltage go from a lower voltage that gets generated, and then they step up the voltage and increase the voltage to transmit along the transmission line for long distances.
Right.
And then from there, we go to the substation.
But just before we reach substation, just so our viewers can have a picture of what a transmission line looks like. You were explaining to me earlier that these are the poles that you might find in the Western Highway.
Yes, okay, so, and I must stress the importance of this. Every design have a standards that we must comply with for safety of the public. So if you would go along the Western Highway, you would see these tall 8 structure type poles. Those are the transmission lines, right? They transmit at high voltage, right?
Okay. So we are at the transmission system, and then we go into substation. What is the purpose of substations?
All right, so if you would look around in your town, city, you would see these fence yards with a lot of big equipments, right? That's called the substation. So the purpose of the substation is to, remember I told you earlier that we transmit at a high voltage,
Right.
but we need to step it down further. And that is where the substation comes in, where you step down the transmission voltage level to a distribution level.
So it's bringing down the voltage
Yes,
from transmission levels to
distribution
distribution
level.
levels in order for it to be safe to travel on the distribution lines
Yes.
now that you see in your communities.
Yeah, so that is done through a power transformer,
Okay.
right? So that's the substation. That's the purpose of the substation. When it's ready to get transmitted to the distribution line, now we have to ensure that it is safe again, it is reliable, and it is being distributed efficiently, right? So now moving on to the distribution lines, those are the single poles that you would see on the street in your community, with the lines running different streets.
Right. In front of your house.
Yes. However, that voltage level is still not usable to you as a consumer.
It's still too high.
It's still too high.
Still a voltage too high. Okay.
Yes. Now, to step that down further is where we introduce the distribution pole mounted transformers. These are those cylindrical bucket looking devices that you see on the poles.
Right.
Those are the transformers. So it steps down from a distribution level to a customer level. The regular 120, 240 that you use to power your lights, your fan, your microwave, that's the purpose of that.
Okay.
Right?
So ensuring that once it reaches your home, well, the transformer at the distribution level ensures that the quality is at a level that is safe.
Is usable, safe, and reliable for you, the customer. Right?
Right.
So from the transformer, it then enters your home.
Through the meter system.
That's right.
Okay.
So it goes through the metering system, and the meter records what you consume as a customer.
Right.
Right. Now that meter is a important and a key device for us, because what we do with that data, we gather it from the customer and we use it to do planning and generation forecasting, and for it to become available, for the demand to be available for you, the customer, right? So those are important data that we must study on a daily basis,
right,
to do further planning to ensure that yes, you as a customer is always receiving safe, reliable, sustainable electricity.
All right. So that, like you said, the purpose for that information is for us to always be able to match customers' needs with the available supply of
That's
power,
right.
At all times, whether it shifts, whether it comes down
Yes.
or up, we're always trying to match that. And
Yes.
that information helps us to make those decisions.
Those are the key information that we use to do those planning.
Right. Now, could you, for the sake of our customers watching us, could you summarize, because it's a very complicated process
Yes.
with a lot of steps, but could you summarize maybe the main or the key components or key phases of that process from generation all the way to customers' homes?
Yes, definitely. So you have the generating facilities that generate at a lower voltage, and then it steps up to be transmitted from a transmission level. Then it reaches the substation, where you step down the voltage again to be transmitted into the distribution line. And from the distribution line, we step it down further through the distribution transformers to be used by you, the customers.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
that's the process.
Right.
It might seem as a easy task,
Right.
but it's complex at different level, right? And for you, the customer, it might only be a case that you see, you only turn on a light and turn it off. You plug in a device and it works. But there's a lot of things happening in the back end for you to get that voltage and that electricity at that level. So I want to take this opportunity to thank the guys them who are behind the complex process,
All
right?
the
Because
people, you know,
yes, because
involved.
it takes a high level of technical expertise, proper planning, and team collaboration, right? You have guys from the generation department, you have guys from the transmission department, you have guys from the control center, you have the engineers from the system planning, from distribution planning, and then you have the guys that you see every day in the bucket trucks, the linemen, the power line technicians, right? Those are from the distribution operations team. And then, of course, we have the customer service team who is constantly communicating and feeding the customers with information, right? That's just to name a few, but there's a lot more team that collaborate in the back end
Right.
to ensure that, yes, we as BEL supply you, the customer, with safe, reliable, and sustainable electricity.
That's an excellent point, Ivan, and
Yes.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that because, as you rightly said, and this process happens instantaneously, right? You turn on your
Yes.
lights and light the day, right? But a lot of times we forget or we aren't aware of how much goes in to making that work the way it does,
Yes.
right? So I'm really, really glad that you mentioned that. And also, it helps us to understand and appreciate why sometimes we may need to have an interruption in order for us to maintain the grid, conduct upgrades, conduct certain fixes or different operations on the grid. I think understanding this process helps us to appreciate that a little bit more.
Yes.
Right.
And that becomes a part of the planning process as well, right? That we have to make the necessary plans to avoid unplanned interruptions.
Right.
Right. So we have to look at all those stuff from a generation standpoint, a transmission standpoint, substation standpoint, and most naturally from a distribution standpoint, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent points, Evan. And now we move on to my favorite part of the show where we do a giveaway for our viewers that have been tuning in and have been paying attention and engaging with us. Every episode, we ask a question based on the topic of the day, and the first person to answer correctly wins the prize. This is the prize that you see on your screen. This is what you will be going home with if you are that lucky winner. And the question of the day is the following. What are the four main stages that electricity goes through before reaching your home? Again, what are the four main stages that electricity goes through before reaching your home? Now, if you've been tuning in, I think the answer to this question will be really easy for you. Now, if you are selected as a lucky winner, be sure to send us a private message so that we can arrange for the delivery of your prize. The winner will be announced at the end of the show, so be sure to start typing in your answers in the chat as soon as possible. And remember, the first person to answer this question correctly will be the winner. All right, and with that said, Ivan, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us on the show and having this very important conversation. I certainly learned a lot. I hope our viewers also learned a lot.
Yes, definitely. It's always a pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much, Ivan. Is there any last closing words that you want to say?
Yes, definitely. To the customers, our customers, I want you guys to always think about us here at BL whenever you plug in your appliance, whenever you turn on your light. Right? Keep in mind that there are someone or some team working in the back end to ensure that you have electricity at your home, even during thunderstorms, during rain, right? And I guess with an explanation today, you guys would appreciate more what we do at BL.
Electricity doesn't sleep, and with that
No.
in mind, so our services don't sleep either.
Uninterrupted.
24/7, uninterrupted.
24/7, yes.
All right, thank you very much, Ivan. I really appreciate you being on the show today to share your insights.
Yes, thank you.
And with that said, we've come to the end of our show for today. Thank you very much for joining and for participating in the discussion. As always, Stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you next time on the What's and Whys of Energy.